Hello, and welcome to another episode of Influence and Growth Mastery. This is Tonya Gossage, your guide mastering the art of making authentic connections, growing your audience, and leveraging influence to create an impactful and thriving business using AI. Today, I have with me Beth Brown. She's with Shine Social Company. She's an overcomer who became intentional about healing for herself and her children. Once that happened, she decided to shine her light so that others could see the way too. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about how that happened. Beth, it's so exciting to have you here with me today on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I've been so excited because I've been following you for a little bit and I feel like we're kind of like soul sisters in a way. So, hopefully we won't get off on a tangent where we're just geeking out about AI and all the marketing things. But
if we do, it's okay. I have enjoyed. We visited just a few minutes before we came on live, and I already feel like I've known her for quite some time now. And I love it when I meet people like you, Beth. It's so rewarding to meet someone and automatically have a connection and be able to build a relationship. I mean, I don't know about you, but gosh, that just is such a rewarding feeling to me.
Well, being that that's what you do, and that's what I do too, is it's all about the relationships. And that's what I've been with Alignable for a long time. So Alignable is a big part of my life. And for those that don't know what Alignable is, it's another type of social media platform. Similar, I always say it's like if LinkedIn and Facebook had a baby, Facebook groups and LinkedIn had a baby. Because they're really great about their groups and their virtual events. It's a lot of business owners and small business owners, but Alignable is really big about showing people that there's a better way of building your business, and that is through relationships. So, and I know that you're really big on that, and I am too. And another thing that we're both really big on is connections. And who do we know that you need to know? I know we didn't talk about that, but I think that's part of me. I like people say, oh, I'm doing that. I'm like, all of a sudden my brain goes to, who do I know that they need to know? Who do I know? Because it doesn't matter if it's me. It matters helping that person. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I do the same thing. When I meet someone like what you're just talking about, I have a Trello board that I keep those names in and what they do, what they're up to.
You're way more honest than me about it then.
Really? Oh yeah. Yeah. I keep up with who I've met and what they do. And so if I'm looking for somebody that does social media, I can go right to that and say, Beth's your person, Nikki's your person, whomever, they're your girl. They're your woman.
It doesn't matter if I'm their person or not. I'm not everybody's person. And that's why it's important to know a lot of
multiple people,
even in the same industries, because we can, I have people in the social media industry that I'm happy to refer because I may not be that person's person.
Right. Absolutely. So Beth, let's get right on into talking about your journey to success. I love talking about, the pivotal moments in someone's journey, both personal and professionally. So share with us how you got to where you were to where you are today. What led you to where you are?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to understand that without the bad, how can we know good? And so it's not about what happens to you, but what you do about those things.
Absolutely.
And so I grew up really great, like in a strong Christian home, maybe a little too strict, but I grew up knowing that my parents loved me and that we had a very strong family connection, and I knew that they were trying to do their best for me. So I always had that, and I'm pretty blessed and fortunate to have had that. But it did not prevent me from experiencing really scary and harrowing moments in my life after getting married. And, without going into too much detail, I don't think I need to. But the fact is, we all have bad things that happen. And they're and the things that happened to me were pretty scary. And over the course of about 16, 20 years of living that kind of existence, I guess you could say, I finally got out, took my kids with me, and experienced a lot of mom guilt, for not feeling like I protected them as well as I should have or could have. But I think we all do the best we can with what we know. And if you're living in a cycle of abuse, and that's exactly what it is for those that know, it is a cycle and it's hard to get out. People looking in go, oh, well, you should just leave. Why didn't you just leave? Well, it's not as easy as that. It's very scary for whatever reasons, but it is. And thankfully, though, I got out, the fog lifted, and I was able to be like, what did I live through? Oh my God, I'm just glad to be alive. I'm really fortunate to be alive. And like I said, the mom guilt was real. I'm like, what did I allow my kids to live through? It's just horrible. It's not anything I intentionally did. But we did get out. And subsequently, I worked really hard. I've always been a very hard worker. I've worn a lot of hats, I've always been an entrepreneur since I was 16. And that was a part of the guilt too. I'm like, why can't I keep a regular job? Why do I get bored? Why do I change things so quickly and easily? I really envy those people that can stay in the same job for years and retire. That's not me. Right now, it's just really hard. But I do realize now, looking back, that having all these diversities really prepared me to have a lot of diverse clients that I could help. But I did fall apart. That time came that my brain, my heart, my soul was exhausted and it couldn't keep me afloat anymore. So there was an evening where I felt like, oh, something's really wrong. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. Something's wrong. And I woke up the very next day in the pit of depression. And if you've been depressed, it is a pit. You're in this dark place, and I can remember thinking, I'm looking up and I see this little tiny hole that's a light. How do I make that light bigger? How do I get closer to that light? Because I'm way down here, and I couldn't. Also, what accompanied the depression was anxiety with panic. And I was diagnosed with that because I could not leave my house all of a sudden. It was weird. Like I was like, couldn't pay bills, couldn't function, couldn't get kids to school, couldn't cook, didn't want to eat. And all I can remember, it was like the feeling of impending doom. And that's the only way I know how to describe it. It's involuntary, it's involuntary, nothing I wanted to be in and nothing I could get out of. So went to the doctor. Thankfully, I got to the doctor, was prescribed Zoloft or something. And within about the scary part was you're like, please, God, please let this medicine help.
Yeah.
Because with depression, I'm thinking, I really am okay with killing myself. And because everybody else would be better off. And isn't that weird to think? I mean, to think about it now, it's like, that's crazy. But that's what people really feel. And it's very real. So, within about 2 weeks, those feelings were kind of getting less and less. I was able to leave the house finally. It was an awful situation. But, God puts people in your lives at certain times, and I do believe that. And I had these wonderful women that I'm no longer really talking to, but at that time, they were there for me, this group of women, and they were checking in on me and they were praying for me. And I don't know, I'm just very thankful to have the people that I had in my life at that time. And so that was really tough. So I understand, unfortunately, when people go through those things, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, this is my story of overcoming, is I got the medicine. I sought out therapy and counseling. And I've done a lot of things over the past 7 years. It was about 7 years ago to heal, because it's nowhere, that's no way to live.
Mm-mm.
And anyway, therapy, medicine, and the past 7 years, I've also done a lot of other alternative therapies. And that's where the intentional part comes in. Like, I was very intentional about healing and seeking out things that could help me heal. One of the things I've done is EMDR. And I was very skeptical, because I'm like, how can somebody waving a couple of fingers in front of your face really do anything? That was one of those most pivotal healing things that I've ever done. I was having a lot of nightmares, a lot of triggers. I mean, a song could come on the radio and I would just be triggered.
Mm-hmm.
A food trigger. Nightmares were not fun either. Very vivid nightmares of being killed and chased and, ridiculous.
Wow.
The EMDR took those away. It really minimized the memories to where I can't hardly remember anymore. They're very faint and they're not as vivid, and they're not as, nothing triggers anymore.
Wow.
So I would highly recommend. I also have a great functional doctor who diagnosed me with adrenal fatigue. I never heard of such a thing. And that was easily because I told her, I'm like, I've done all this healing. I've done EMDR. I'm really good, but my motivation, I don't have the zest for life like I grew up having. I don't have a motivation to set any goals. I don't have, and it wasn't depression. It was lack of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how I wanted to be. So we did adrenals, some testing, and I highly recommend a functional doctor if you've never tried one.
Wow.
But it was easily fixed with supplements. I got my mojo back, and so much so that I decided I wanted to finally achieve my goal of working from home, to be a stay-at-home working mom. And I just decided I'm going to be a virtual assistant. I can do that. I've done all these things. I've been an office manager. I know how to do that. And no one wants to hire me. I don't think. It was really hard. And I thought, I'm just going to do this myself. So I did. I quit and fixed my little home office here and became a virtual assistant. In fact, it was called Shine Virtual Co. at that time.
Oh, wow.
But my clients wanted social media. And the funny thing is, I'm not into social media. Like, I didn't, at that time, it was duck lips were really popular. The selfies with the duck lips. Mm-hmm. No, not going to do that. And that's kind of what I thought social media was. And also, coming through all the trauma, I was very private. Like, my Facebook page was private. I'm like, I have to get really public if I'm going to be on social media. So that's part of the intentional healing as well. I knew I had to overcome that. Mm-hmm. And I also knew at this time that how do I help my kids heal? At that time, when I finally came out of all that mess, I think my oldest was 13, the other was 11, and my youngest was about 6. And I'm like, how do I help them heal? I mean, I could stick them in therapy, but as you know, if you don't want to heal, or if you don't think you have something to heal from, you're not going to. And I thought, okay, the only 2 things I know that can help is praying and become this example, become an example of an overcomer and a successful person on my own. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did and worked hard. And like I said, my first 2 clients wanted social media. So I said, okay, yes, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Right. And on the other side, I'm going, okay, let's start Googling Instagram and let's start Googling all this stuff. So that's what I did. I took an Instagram course. I'd not been on Instagram, learned how Instagram worked. And one client, I had to end up firing. I'm like, I just don't think we're cut out for each other after a few months. And the other client has been with me ever since.
Wow.
So the rest is history. After a while, I've learned that I loved Instagram and I loved this. It was just, kind of moments. And I kept learning more. I couldn't get enough and changed my name to Shine Social Co. I'm not a virtual assistant, as one of my friends likes to say.
Wow.
I'm a social media strategist, a manager, and I have built a team of about 8 other contractors who happen to be all women. I can't help that. I'm not opposed to men.
That's
It
okay.
just works into that.
That's okay.
And what I love about my team is that they're pretty much all mamas. And I found them and I noticed a gift and I said, hey, you want to try this? And let me teach you what I'm doing. And they came on and they've been with me and they are working from home and have great flexibility for their families and their children and are earning an income and are really enjoying feeling like they're being productive and contributing to the success of others, which is really what it's all about. And that's why I called it Shine, is because I've been through this dark place and we all have a light. And in order to help others, we just have to shine our light in the best way we know how.
Absolutely.
And the cool thing, Tonya, is one of my grandmothers, who is very crafty, and I consider to be a lot like her. It's my mom's mom. We're all crafty, generations of crafty, creative people here. She was a cross stitcher. My mom is a quilter. I'm a painter, as you can see my back.
Wow. Yeah. I love that.
But I found out at her funeral, I guess, that I knew she did craft shows and stuff. And I knew she's in Oklahoma, but in the summers, she would go to Colorado and she had a little antique store. And that antique store was called, I think, Shine or Sunshine. But, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And her logo was this sun. And it says something about shining or sunshine on the bottom. I'm like, I had no idea when I made my name that was hers as well. I had no idea.
Wow.
So,
wow, that's awesome.
I've never told anybody that before, but that's incredible to me. These things.
That is. There's a couple of things I want to point out here. Sometimes people look at you, look at us, look at other people, and they don't know what's behind the curtain or behind the scenes, what people have gone through. I'm so similar to you, which is kind of amazing. It just gave me chill bumps, but everybody has bruises. They have things that they've been through. But what's so important is how you go through it. And you saying, seeing the light, wanting to get through that light. I remember a time I used to think, how could anybody ever think so darkly? How could they think that way?
Right.
And then there was a time when I was so stressed and so burnt out at work, because I spent 34 years in my corporate role. But many years back, I was so overloaded with work and so stressed out, so much on my plate, that I remember, and I didn't tell anybody for a long, long time, that I would think about walking across the highway, because where we parked and where our office was, the highway went through. And I remember thinking about going to lunch or going home in the evening and just acting like I didn't see the oncoming traffic and just walking out there and letting a car hit me. Yeah. And it'd all be over and I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
And then I didn't commit suicide. Somebody just accidentally hit me,
Oh my God, what happened?
But I remember thinking those things. And I too was depressed. I had anxiety about a lot of things. And when it got really serious, I shared that with my husband. One day I'm just going to walk out in front of the traffic. And he was like, what?
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
to get help. This is serious. And not only are you going to go to the doctor and get help, you're going to go talk to your boss about the workload that you have. And you're going to go find some other job. But then when you open up to that, the healing process can start. Like you said, you start taking steps and the healing process begins. So I don't know who in the audience or who's going to hear this that needs to hear your story, my story. But I remember when I had the conversation with my boss, the workload in a very short time that was offloaded off of my plate. I too got on depression and anxiety medicine at the time, and things got better. But we look at people sometimes and we look at them and we think everything is beautiful, everything is perfect in their lives. And there's nothing behind the scenes, nothing behind the curtain that they've never had to go through. But things can be ugly, but even though they were ugly, there's healing on the other side that we can go through, and people that can come into our lives and help us, which takes me to the thing I want to ask you is, you mentioned the two doctors, you mentioned, your spirituality, which is wonderful in itself too. Did you have someone that served? You mentioned your group of friends that checked on you all the time. Right. Was there anyone throughout that time that really sticks out to you that was so influential to you then or even now, that was such a support system as a mentor to you at that point in time, or even
it was no one could really understand what I was going through, because to grow up Southern Baptist, getting a divorce and talking about that stuff was, you don't do that,
right?
And so private. Talk about the spiritual journey. I grew up very Christian and Southern Baptist, but this year I've been really questioning a lot of my beliefs and why, which makes me feel really guilty. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm doing better on that. But, at that time, it was shame. It's still, everything has some kind of shame attached to it, whether it's mental health or whether it's religion and divorce and spousal abuse and that kind of thing. It's just stuff people aren't really encouraged to talk about. But at that time, I had a cousin. She was working on her PhD in psychology, and she shared a recording about, I can remember something about a frog and a hole. I don't even know what it was, but I can remember just laying on my bed, and that's all I could do was lay there, and I could sleep and wake up, and my heart I thought I was having a heart attack, because that was the panic attack, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what I say, anxiety.
I would cry a little bit, and then I would go back to sleep. And this was my cycle for many days. But in between, I would just kind of lay there and listen to that recording. And I remember, like I said, I grew up very healthy in a great family. But there's always things. Mm-hmm. And even as wonderful as my parents were, they were very strict. And I realized at that moment, because it all goes back to childhood somehow, mm-hmm. no matter how perfect. And like I said, I love my parents, adore my parents, respect my parents. But I learned and I realized that through that little recording that my cousin sent me, and we're not close at all, not to this day, but at that time, she sent me this little recording. And I realized, I thought back and I tried really hard to think, because I'm trying really hard to heal and get over this mess, that my parents, I felt like I had to be this perfect Christian, even at such a young age, 6, 7, 8. I was the oldest. I was the one who got in trouble. I was the one who got spankings. And I felt like my dad had set this bar of Christianity so high that I was never going to make it. And I can remember people in high school. I can remember my ex-husband at one time saying, "You just think you're so perfect." And I'm thinking, and all I could think inside was, no, I don't. That's exactly the opposite of how I really think.
Mhm.
That's what people perceived. And I was just like, how can y'all think that about me? I don't think that because I grew up trying to reach this bar of perfectionism. And, so they had it all wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but that's okay. That's okay. But when I realized that, I was like, oh, huh. That's why I've made the decisions I've made. That's why I've chosen to marry the people I've married who were so mean to me, because I needed somebody that that made me feel good about myself. Isn't that awful?
I get it.
So then when I could realize that was the beginning of my healing. That was the beginning, the aha moment, the light. And man. And then I can remember there's a couple of ladies, like I said, growing up in the Southern Baptist, I started dating a guy before I fell apart. And he took me to a church that was non-denominational, that had a band. And of course, growing up Southern Baptist, you could have a band in church. That's not cool.
Right.
And the messages were hopeful and encouraging. Whereas in a Southern Baptist church, a small Southern, it's hellfire damnation. You're a sinner. And so the whole message in that church was I was just like, oh, I can't ever go back to a Southern Baptist church now and feel that way about myself.
Yeah.
So thankfully he came into my life and showed me that. He's no longer in my life either. Probably my family would say, oh, he was awful. But you know what? that's an example of a person that was put in your life.
Yeah.
That made a big difference for me. That exposed me to a different type of religion.
Right.
That opened my eyes and was like, it don't have to be that way. It's not about religion. Oh, so here we go. I'm not going to get into the spiritual journey thing because I am Native American and I've learned a lot of things in the past couple of years about that. But, it's when you think back on these things and you realize, just let these people come into your life. Just let these people help you. And don't worry if they step back out of your life, whether it's because you didn't keep in touch with them or they didn't keep in touch with you. And you're going to be that person for somebody too. You're going to become, I can remember coming into people's lives and helping them through a moment. And then I have guilt because we didn't keep in touch. I'm like, no,
Are we soul sisters?
Right. And I was like, no, I served that place for them too. And it's okay. They don't need me anymore. So,
wow. Yes, man, I can so relate. I'm the oldest of four. And, I was brought up in a very strict home too. My mom was just telling me this past weekend that my dad was the most strict with me whenever we were born.
yeah.
No one was allowed to pick me up, touch me, carry me, anything till I was 2 years old. And I remember, whenever I was able to start driving, dating, all of those things,
Oh, yes.
I was not able to go out if there was a chance of rain, storm, anything like that, because I might have an accident or there might be an accident and I might be in that accident or whatever. He was so protective of me. So, I get it. And then as the next one came, he was a little more lenient. And then as the next one came, he was a little more lenient. But yeah, I was the one who got the brunt of all of the discipline. And now if you were to talk to my sisters and my brother, who is no longer with us, they would say things probably a little bit differently, but yeah, my parents were very strict on me. But so I definitely understand where you're coming from. So how has, looking back on all of that, how have you been able to take those challenges and those things and incorporated what you've learned from that into your business? Because I know there's so many things for me that I can take from what I learned as a child, the challenges that I've learned back then and brought into my business. I'll even share one other thing as I take you into there, Beth, is it wasn't until April of this past year that I've been able to do some mindset work on myself to understand that I'm no longer who I was. In fact, I have in some of my work that I do and I teach, it's not about, it's more about who you are than who you're not.
Right.
You're not the person sometimes that you think you are. You are somebody else.
Right.
You have a higher power within you that you need to be. And you need to become that person and let go of who in here that you think you are.
That's right.
And in this past April, I went through that work, but it hit me as an epiphany in a conversation that I went, oh my God, those things that I've been taught, those were lies. I am not that person.
Right.
And I refuse from this moment forward. My desk was over there on that wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go back to that place right now today when I left those lies there. And so I'm not even that person today. But I had to it was like it had to take that conversation for me to realize that's not me. I've been walking in a body and in a mind of somebody else.
Yeah.
And so go ahead. I'll just
no.
let you have the floor.
So when I came out of those times and that kind of around the EMDR, because that was the moment I realized I had no confidence. And I was the kid, I was the girl who had all the confidence. Like I was kind of popular in school. I wasn't one of the smartest, but I was pretty average. I worked hard on my grades. I was in the plays, on the stage, singing and dancing, playing all the sports, being an officer in a lot of organizations in school, entering contests. I mean, I didn't do like the beauty pageants. I wasn't that.
Yeah.
I wasn't a cheerleader. But I did art contests and I would enter art things. And like I said, I was officers in a lot of the organizations. I wasn't afraid to speak up and take part. Mm-hmm. And I was confident. So when I did the EMDR session, I realized and I remember her question in my description of how I felt about myself. I felt like a dirty rug on the floor. I didn't know that.
Wow.
But that's what I came to. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a dirty rug on the floor. I can't believe I feel like that. I can't believe that's how I picture myself.
Wow.
And like you said, you have these pivotal moments. And I'm like, okay,
yes,
well, I'm going to be a tree. I'm not going to be a dirty rag. I'm going to be a tree. And so I'd visualize myself as this little seedling with nothing, just this little stick out of the ground. I'm like, that's what I'm going to be now. I'm going to be a tree. And I'm going to be a cherry tree. And one of these days, I'm going to be a cherry tree that's full of pink blossoms. And as time went on, I would think about that on occasion, and I could picture myself. All of a sudden, I had leaves, and I was really beautiful and green. And now I'm the cherry tree with the blossoms. I mean, it's taken a while, but you have to, how do you build your confidence back? That's the question. And so then I began to think, okay, how do I do this? Because in order to build my business and to be confident, because I did lose a client due to not confidence. She was like, I need you to tell me what I need to do. I'm like, well, I don't know. to tell you. And that was another, I'm like, oh, she's right. I need to be more confident. These business owners need me to tell them. They expect, they're paying me to be confident in my words and my actions and what I'm doing for them. So how do you build confidence? And the first thing I did, because I think it's different for everybody, and I think this is important too. I remember hearing a story about Beyonce and how she has her alter ego called Sasha Fierce before she goes out onto the stage. And I'm like, this is one of my, I'm like, well, who's my alter ego? And I tried to think of names and I couldn't think of anything. And there was a person that came to my mind every time, and it was Gwen Stefani. I know it's weird. Stefani. I love her creativity, and I think she's down to earth, and she is just who I feel like I kind of connect with. I'm creative. I want to be down to earth. And I thought, boy, I bet she's a badass when it comes to business decisions. Like she doesn't let
she is too.
Or she wouldn't be where she is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, when I have to get into a meeting, when I have to do a presentation, I'm going to become Gwen Stefani. Mm-hmm. And so I would just imagine myself for a long time becoming Gwen Stefani when I needed to be more confident. And so I highly recommend that for people. Mm-hmm. Who can you become?
It works.
You don't have to tell anybody about it.
Nope.
No one has to know. You just can create your alter ego, and this is who you become to give you the strength and the confidence you need to stand up in power. And the more you do it, the more you just do it, the stronger and more confident you get. That's it. Mm-hmm. And that's how I did that. And that's some of the lessons I learned. Did you have an alter ego, Tonya?
I did.
I'm wondering.
I'm telling you, I mean, you're speaking my language. If you could see my wall right here.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe what's on it. I need to take a picture and message it to you in Messenger.
Social media post.
I'm telling you, yes. And then I have this little, let me get it right here because I use it a lot. I talk about it, but I've never shown it. And I come across it a couple of weeks ago and I thought, I'm going to put this on my desk. But this little thing right here, it says Bank of Ozark. It's old. I mean, it's like 30 years old. And this little thing right here is my first manifestation visualization exercise of doing exactly what you're talking about in a great way. But this is what I would call my success track. This is my success track. And this is what got me my first promotion. And when you talk about visualizing, you were Gwen Stefani. Back then, I was me back then because I didn't visualize myself as someone else. But today, my role model changes based upon what it is I'm doing. It depends upon if I'm going to be, getting on a stage, if I'm going to do a podcast, maybe I'm talking about a topic that I'm not as knowledgeable about, but I'm forcing myself to do it, or I'm working on a training course or whatever it is, my role model changes. Yeah. But I'm going to show up in that person as that person in their power, the way they show up. And I've had people say that is so woo-woo, and I don't care.
I know.
Because I don't care. I teach it.
Right.
Because those people that think it's so woo-woo, they can stay in that small mindset if they want to.
That's right.
But I'm going to continue it to the day I die because it works.
That's right. It does. I mean, let's talk about imposter syndrome. I read a book recently. I'm all about personal development books. I love
I am too.
And then I read my fiction psychological thrillers in the evening. But mornings are...
I'm not there yet.
Fiction is the evening. But, there was one where it's about imposter syndrome, and I knew I needed to work on that. And the book I read, I can't remember the name of it. I can come back later. But I had a lot of examples of a lot of famous and well-to-do women. We all have imposter syndrome. There's not a single person or woman out there that men just exhibit it differently. And I think they call it something different if they even identify it at all. But women, we're not afraid to. And everyone has it. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are. Gwen Stefani has it. That time, but I remember I was doing a webinar and I'm like, I just second guess my knowledge because I do a lot of presentations too. I love educating small business owners so they can help themselves because I know they can't all afford somebody like me. And, starting out in business, you have to do a lot of it yourself. And so I try to make it very easy and understandable and give them actionable things that they can take and do for themselves that will make differences. So I'm doing this webinar on Alignable, and I think we have about 600 people registered. So it's one of the biggest groups ever. And I did kind of look at the list, and thankfully there wasn't a lot of marketing people in there. I really would have had some issues. But, I'm like, you know what? I know more than some, but not more than others. So
you only have to know 10%, be 10 steps ahead.
That's it. So I'm like, okay, you're going to come sit next to me, imposter girl. And I did. I visualized a shallow image of myself right here at this desk. I'm like, you're going to sit here and you're going to sit here with me and we're going to do it together no matter what.
That's right.
And we're going to do it with confidence and speak with authority. So I just invited my old little imposter self to sit with me.
I love that.
Instead of watching me and saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. You're an imposter. I was like, no, today you're going to sit right here with me.
I love that. Now that I have not had someone sit beside me like that as far as manifesting that out, but I love that. I'm going to try that.
That's what I'm saying. We all have it. We all have those moments where, that little voice is going, you don't know enough. What gives you the right to tell people how they should do social media? You're nothing. You don't have a degree in marketing. But you know what? We're all given gifts. And that's my gift. Marketing is my natural gift. And I love it. And I'm no Seth Goldstein or Gary V.
Vanderchuck, yes.
But I love them all.
Yes.
But I've got to share what I know to help the people that need it.
That's right. And those that need it will find you. Those that feel like they're above you will go on somewhere else. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
I'm rich off of it, and that's fine. I'm rich in life. And I think that's important is, you talked about your vision, and you being a coach, I know that's important. But so usually my camera's facing more in that corner. But you see there's a little, a framed thing, and then there's my life vision statement. That's my vision statement on that clipboard there. And that's where you write down in great detail and colorful detail how you envision your life, what car you want to drive, what do you want to have, what do you see as yourself when your ideal home, and not just personal, it's business too. How much is in your bank account? It's all about, that's where you find your why, and that's what keeps you going on the hard days. Yeah. And
so I use Canva to do my vision board. Yes. And so this morning, first thing this morning, before I ever even got started doing anything else, I was like, I'm going to update my vision board. And so my granddaughter.
It gets updated, right?
Yes.
It changes.
It update. Yes, you have to update it. And so my granddaughter said to my husband, her grandpa, that she wanted to go to Italy. And I've been wanting to go to Italy, but I didn't know she wanted to go to Italy. Yes. And I'm like, this morning, I've got to put a picture of Italy.
That's right.
On my vision board. Because if I don't put it out there, I'm not going to work toward it.
Mine has Italy and Greece on it. I'm going in October, by the way.
Oh,
I'm making it happen.
I'm jelly. I'm jelly. Goodness. Well, my niece just went. She took her 2 children and she said, Tonya,
Yes.
she said, it is definitely the place to be. And I
I'll
said,
have
well,
your
it's
travel agent if you need an Italy travel agent.
okay. Well, I'm going to go put a tag with your name on it underneath my
On your Trello board.
in my image. Yes. Yes. So, oh my goodness, yes. So, but yeah, if you don't do those things, you don't keep that stuff top of mind, how in the world do people ever get to where they want to be? Grant Cardone wrote his goals every single day for years, every morning and every night. If Grant Cardone can do it, and be a multi-billionaire now. His goal was to get to $1 billion, and then he finally did, and now he's multi-billion. If he can do it, I can do it.
That's right. And what did he start out with? Was he the world's leading expert on anything like we are?
No. He was a drug addict. He was a drunk. He lost his father at 10 years old. When you go back and you look at people like that, and I've done what he has said to do, is find your people, research them, and repeat what they do.
Yeah, don't stay stuck.
No.
I realized a while back that my people changed. And I was spending a lot of time in some virtual networking groups. And I realized, I'm like, these are not my ideal clients anymore. I've outgrown these people. And I know that sounds harsh.
No.
But really, you've got to stand up for yourself. And you're a business owner, by God. And you can't keep playing small. You have to say, okay, sometimes you have to say, I've outgrown these people. I've outgrown this. And I don't need to spend my time anymore here. That's wasteful.
You don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
No. So it's, there's times when you got to change it and you can't feel bad about it. And you can't feel bad if people aren't coming with you. And
no, I want to be in the room with smart people.
Yeah.
I want to learn from those people.
That's right. So, as your goals change and as you get smarter in your own business, as you gain in knowledge, your things have got to change. You can't stay where you are.
You've had some great nuggets today.
Well, I hope they're encouraging. My goodness, I don't always share my story, especially on social media. It's just like, and like you said, you have to remember, I'm a social media person, y'all. This is what I do for a living. And you've got to share all the good stuff. You do. But you also have to keep in mind it's not all good stuff behind the scenes, but really, okay, this is one of my strategies. Social media does well for business because you're showing the aspirational life for your clients. Clients don't want to see the bad stuff. They just don't. They want to see you fix their problem and show you that they can achieve their aspirations with you and whatever services you're providing. So that's why social media is so shiny and pretty. It's because it's aspirational. But you have to be able to deliver on those things that you're offering to people. And I know you do. But just keep it separate. Keep it separate from your personal life.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, here's the thing. When you are coaching people want to know that you're real, you're authentic, you have integrity, and that they are just like you. And if you can do it, they can do it.
That's right. That's what It's aspirational. So it's not that you don't lie. There's people out there, I made 6 figures this year. Learn how you can too. Yeah, no. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of crap out there like that too.
Yeah, I recorded a solo podcast this morning and I actually spoke about that. When I came out of banking, this goes right along with what you're talking about. When I came out of banking, I had such an image that I had to portray. in that corporate world. I was a banker everywhere I went, very professional. My image was always a representation of the company and as of my CEO. And so, but I loved that image. That's who I was. And for a long time, Beth, I struggled being on social media because I never shared anything personal.
Right.
Because I didn't want to embarrass my company. I didn't want to embarrass my CEO or my boss. So I didn't share things. So it was very hard for me coming into this role and open up about I almost committed suicide when I was working for that company. I was so stressed out and hit a brick wall when I worked for that company. The day I left, I felt a bulldozer roll down my back.
Right.
I went to PT for a year on my arm, and a week later, my arm was basically healed. I didn't share any of that while I was there. And then when I left, I was like, this is freeing. But I had to go through a mindset shift that I don't carry that image anymore. I'm me. I have my own business. I have to share who I am authentically because, like I mentioned a while ago, people don't know the behind the scenes of who we really are. We're not perfect people.
No.
We don't have glass diamond lives. We are just like them. And so that's what I love about what we do is we can be transparent and we're not fake.
Right.
We can share who we are. And so I love being able to have a one-to-one conversation and being able to say, I've been where you are. Maybe
Absolutely.
not to your level, but I've been where you are. And
that's
I
understand.
understand.
That's what I love about podcasts because it provides a safe space to share your story and hopefully help others.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So in ending our time together, is there any advice that you would give to someone that maybe has been through a similar situation as you, and right now today, because they can't get past the past? Is there any piece of advice that you would give them to help them move forward?
Yeah, you can't stop. You can't give up. You have to take time to heal. You have to put some energy in it because it can't get better unless you don't give it some energy and some attention. You have to. And you have to, not only for yourself, but for those who are watching you, if you have children or whoever, because the goal is to live your best life and to live it in joy and peace. And it can be done, but it takes effort. So you have to employ the right people in your life to make that happen for you and take time to do it. I mean, I no longer have to do I don't do therapy anymore. I did do therapy a year or so ago when I had teenagers, just because I think any parent with teenagers needs therapy.
Yeah.
They need somebody. You just need somebody to listen, So I'm kind of past the teenager stage for now. I have one more coming up. So I did seek help for that, and it was really helpful. But nowadays, I spend a lot of time, like right now, I'm looking in spiritual religion and trying to figure that out and figuring it out. I do a lot of sound baths. I find things that I love. And so I loved a good sound bath. I like the meditative state I can get into in a very relaxing state in a sound bath. I go for walks nearly every day, every morning with my dog. It's my favorite thing. Mm-hmm. Get a lot of brain downloads on that. And I take time to I have a really time blocking in my schedule, time to work and time to stop working. And I adhere to that.
I love that. So, Beth, in your business, you do social media strategy, social media marketing, content creation, marketing, and social media education.
Yes.
If
And I know that sounds like a bunch of blah, 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 blah to everybody else out there, but what? People that aren't in the social media or marketing space, all they have to know is I create a plan for you according to your business goals and your budget. Then we can do even more. We can create content, and that is basically writing captions, creating a post with the graphic, video editing, whatever it is. And we attach a few hashtags to it, and we schedule it and have it go out on your social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, all the main ones. And then we watch the analytics and we come back and say, hey, this is what's really working well and this isn't. Let's try this. And we're just making, do you have any events? Or do you have any specials going on? Let's put that in your strategy. Let's create a post on that. I need you to do this kind of thing. So if businesses want some kind of social media, it's not the end all be all. It's one piece of the marketing puzzle. Mm-hmm. Just one piece, and that's all I focus on because it's enough for me.
Right. But it is a critical piece.
It's a critical piece, along with having a website, along with having an email list, along with networking and building relationships. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest part. But when you build those relationships and network, people are going to want to go see what else you're up to and find out more about you. And that's when they go to social media and they look. It's like window shopping. And that's why what you have on social media is important, as if you had a brick and mortar business. You're showing people what's inside your business because they're walking by and looking in the window and trying to decide if they want to come in or not.
That's exactly right.
What you're showing on social media is basically that. Mm-hmm. And you're not selling all the time. You're showing what you can do. You're showing the other problems you have solved for clients like them. You're giving them help and giving tips and education and value so that they want to follow you. And when they're ready to work with you, they will.
They will.
You've been sharing this good stuff on social media for a long time.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So where can people reach out to you? What social media?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Not on Twitter. I'm a little bit on TikTok. It depends on if I have a video I want to share. Alignable is my main platform. That's where I've made the most relationships. So if you go to Instagram and go, oh, she only has 1,000 followers, then you might need to check out my Alignable, because we all have platforms that are your platform. That's where your people are hanging out. My people hang out on Alignable. Mm-hmm. And so that's where all my reviews are. They're not on Google. All my connections. But you don't have to be on Alignable to connect with me. Like I said, I'm on your favorite platform, Facebook, Instagram. And it's just Shine Social Co. I also have a private marketing collective that is built for small business owners to come in and get marketing advice and cut through all the noise. And we have several small businesses there, and we help them with their email funnels and their messaging. And it's just very cut and dry marketing advice. And it's a little safe community. And we can come in there and complain if we want to. Or they can say, hey, can you look at my website copy? And we'll say, sure, yeah, this is not speaking to your audience. You need to do this and this and this. And it's called No Dumb Questions, NDQ, because we think there's no dumb questions. There aren't.
Now, is that in Alignable or is that somewhere else?
That is on my profile in Alignable. So if you connect with me,
questions.
Yeah, you can work with me one-on-one or join my community. It's only $49 a month. And you get access. And it's not just me. There's 2 other marketers in there, and we run it together.
That's awesome. No dumb questions. I love that.
No dumb questions. It's fun.
I love it. Well, Beth, thank you so much for being here today. And I appreciate you, all of the feedback that you've given, sharing your journey, your upwards, your downwards, your challenges. I'm thankful that it has ended up in a good place.
It's ended up in the place I could have never imagined.
Yeah,
For myself. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's good. That is so good. Well, I highly recommend to all of you listening to reach out, connect, follow
And
Beth.
I'll hang out on your group too, so they can come see me there.
Yes, they can. They sure can. Come in. It's so funny. I did not do this, and I should have. I don't know why I didn't. But I usually say, I met this person on Alignable.
Yeah, but we did. I met a person on Alignable who met you on Alignable.
That is true. Who introduced us.
You.
That is true. That's the power of connections and referrals, which is so powerful. And Beth has a couple of people too to introduce to me as the power of referrals and connections, guys. I talk about that all the time. If you are in my audience and you follow me, she is a living example of that. And she and I will get to know each other even on a deeper level. I can promise you that, Beth. I can promise you that. Everyone's
either a client, a collaborator, or a connection.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. So if you liked this episode, be sure that you like it. Click the bell to subscribe for more great podcasts just like this one. And if you've not already joined the group that Beth was talking about, Influence and Growth Mastery in Facebook community, please do so. And come and join us on Alignable. I promise you will not be disappointed. And until next time, keep cultivating your connections and growing your influences. Together, we are all going to master the art of impact. This is Tonya Gossage and Beth signing off. Thank you so much.
Bye.